Hello, chosen one. Have you ever noticed that bewildering paradox that repeats itself over and over in our world? People without higher education, without university degrees, without that intellectual brilliance we so admire, build economic empires while recognized geniuses, doctors with multiple disciplines, minds capable of solving humanity's most complex problems, struggle month after month just to make ends meet. This reality isn't coincidence, nor destiny's injustice. It's something far deeper that challenges everything we think we know about prosperity and divine purpose. Carl Gustav Jung, the brilliant Swiss psychiatrist who revolutionized our understanding of the human psyche, dedicated much of his life to exploring the mysteries of the collective unconscious. He discovered that we carry within us ancestral patterns, archetypes that shape our destiny in ways our conscious mind doesn't even suspect. His research revealed that some people are born with what he called destiny complexes, deep psychic structures that orient them toward certain life paths without their full conscious understanding of why. Meanwhile, Viktor Frankl, Holocaust survivor and father of logotherapy, demonstrated through his most extreme experience that life's meaning doesn't reside in the pursuit of pleasure or power, but in finding a transcendent purpose that justifies any suffering. Frankl observed that in concentration camps, those who survived weren't necessarily the physically strongest, but those who kept alive a higher reason for existing. Both geniuses reached fascinating and complementary conclusions. Our material destiny doesn't always align with our intellectual capabilities, because deeper, older, wiser forces operate beyond our limited human understanding. Jung from the perspective of the collective unconscious, Frankl from the existential search for meaning. Two paths converging on a revolutionary truth. We are far more than our apparent circumstances. If this topic is resonating deeply with you, if you feel these words are touching something very real in your experience, don't forget to subscribe to this channel where we explore the deepest mysteries of human existence, because what you'll discover here can forever change your perspective on prosperity and purpose. The first major revelation we must integrate is that we live under the illusion of spiritual meritocracy. We've been systematically conditioned to believe that intelligence, academic effort, and intellectual preparation automatically guarantee material success. But spiritual reality operates under completely different laws, laws that transcend the linear logic of cause and effect that dominates our rational thinking. Imagine for a moment that each soul arrives on this plane of existence with an invisible contract, a specific purpose that completely transcends the accumulation of earthly riches. This contract, written in languages our conscious mind cannot decipher, determines the experiences each human being must live to complete their spiritual evolution. Some souls have come specifically to experience matter, to master the money game, to learn lessons that only material abundance can teach. These apparently ordinary people, from an intellectual perspective, flow naturally toward prosperity, because that's precisely their mission in this existence. They don't need to deeply question the meaning of accumulating wealth. Their soul instinctively recognizes that this experience is an essential part of their spiritual growth. They operate from what Jung would call unconscious knowing, an instinctive wisdom that completely bypasses rational filters. In contrast, other souls have arrived with radically different missions. They've come to illuminate, to awaken consciousness, to elevate humanity's collective vibration, to serve as catalysts for social and spiritual transformation. These are frequently the most brilliant minds, the misunderstood geniuses, the visionaries who perceive realities that escape ordinary perception. For these special souls, initial material resistance isn't divine punishment, but meticulous preparation. It's as if the universe subjects them to deliberate spiritual forging, tempering their character, deepening their compassion, and developing that emotional wisdom that will be indispensable when they finally handle the resources they're destined to administer. Jung would have explained this phenomenon through his revolutionary concept of the collective unconscious. He maintained that we inherit not only physical characteristics from our ancestors, but also deep psychic patterns, ancestral memories that influence our behavior in ways we rarely consciously recognize. Many brilliant minds unconsciously carry ancestral codes of sacrifice, extreme humility, or systematic rejection of material abundance. These codes may come from spiritual lineages of monks, priests, healers, mystics, or sages who took sacred vows of poverty in previous existences. Their souls programmed for centuries to associate spirituality with material renunciation, automatically recreate patterns of economic limitation because their deep unconscious recognizes these codes as correct or sacred. It's a spiritual survival mechanism operating at such deep levels that the conscious mind doesn't even suspect its existence. While one part of these people desires material prosperity, another much more powerful part, rooted in the collective unconscious, systematically sabotages any attempt at abundance because it perceives it as betrayal of their ancestral vows. Frankl, from his existential perspective, would add another crucial dimension to this analysis: the conflict between transcendent meaning and material survival. People who enrich easily often possess what he would have called blessed existential naivety. They don't torture themselves with philosophical questions about the ultimate meaning of accumulation. They simply act because it's a natural part of their life experience. Their minds aren't paralyzed by questions like, what's the point of all this if we'll all die eventually? Or how can I get rich when there's so much suffering in the world? Or isn't it selfish to seek personal abundance when so many lack the basics? This apparent mental simplicity is, paradoxically, their greatest strength for generating wealth. Brilliant minds, in contrast, live constantly immersed in that existential tension Frankl knew intimately. They perceive the apparent futility of material accumulation, viscerally understand the impermanence of all earthly things, and this profound understanding can paradoxically become their greatest obstacle to economic prosperity. It's as if their very wisdom, their ability to see beyond the veil of appearances, were simultaneously their greatest gift and their greatest material limitation. They see too much, understand too much, feel too much to be able to play the accumulation game with the necessary carefree attitude to triumph in it. But here emerges something absolutely fascinating that both thinkers intuited: the fundamental difference between impulsive action and paralyzing contemplation. People who prosper materially are usually natural executors, beings who operate from what Jung would classify as feeling or intuition functions. They see an opportunity and act driven by instinctive faith, without getting lost in infinite analyses that end up paralyzing action. Their mental process is direct. They identify a possibility, quickly evaluate its basic viability, and launch into action with the confidence of those who know they can adjust course along the way. This mental and emotional agility allows them to capitalize on opportunities that vanish, while others are still analyzing whether it's worth acting. Brilliant minds, conversely, frequently get trapped in what Frankl identified as pathological hyper-reflection. They analyze each possibility from multiple simultaneous angles, anticipate all potential risks, calculate all possible consequences, evaluate all ethical and existential implications of each decision. This extraordinary analytical capacity, which constitutes their greatest intellectual strength, transforms into their greatest weakness when it comes to generating material wealth. While they plan the perfect strategy, others are already building imperfect but functional empires. While they seek the ethically impeccable decision, others make sufficiently good decisions and adjust them on the fly. The paradox is devastating. Their superior capacity to analyze becomes incapacity to execute. Their gift for seeing multiple dimensions of each situation transforms into decisional paralysis. Their wisdom becomes their prison. Additionally, there exists a deep psychological mechanism that Jung explored extensively: unconscious terror of power and social visibility. Many brilliant minds carry engraved in their collective psyche traumatic memories of persecution, social rejection, or punishment for standing out too much, for knowing too much, for shining brighter than average. At the soul level, they retain memories of having been burned at stakes for their esoteric knowledge, exiled for their revolutionary ideas, attacked for their wisdom, persecuted for their difference. This ancestral terror manifests as systematic economic self-sabotage, just when they're about to reach a level of prosperity that would make them truly visible. Their unconscious activates automatic protection mechanisms that keep them safe in the shadows. It's a survival system that was useful in other eras, but in the current context has become counterproductive. Their soul prefers the safety of economic invisibility to the risk of exposure that material abundance entails. Have you felt identified with any of these descriptions? Have you experienced firsthand that apparently irreconcilable tension between your intellectual capacity and your economic reality? Have you noticed how your very depth of thought sometimes paralyzes you when you should be acting? If so, I need you to tell me about it in the comments, because consciously recognizing these unconscious patterns is the fundamental first step toward their transformation. Frankl made a revolutionary observation during his concentration camp experience. He discovered that those who managed to survive the most extreme conditions weren't necessarily the physically strongest, but those who kept alive a transcendent reason to continue existing, a meaning that justified any present suffering. Applying this profound wisdom to the topic of material prosperity, we could affirm that people who enrich without apparent effort often possess instinctive and unquestionable clarity about their material why. They don't need this purpose to be philosophically deep or spiritually transcendent. They simply know they want prosperity and go for it without paralyzing internal conflicts. Their mental structure is coherent. They want money, they believe they can get it, and they act accordingly. There's no internal dissonance, no unconscious sabotage, no existential questioning that breaks their momentum. This psychological congruence is their greatest competitive advantage. Brilliant minds, however, need a much more elevated, significant, transcendent why. Their evolved soul doesn't settle for accumulating money for the simple pleasure of accumulating. They need to viscerally feel that their prosperity will serve a greater purpose, that it will contribute significantly to collective well-being or the advancement of human consciousness. This internal demand for meaning, though noble and evolutionarily superior, can become a devastating practical obstacle for immediate wealth generation. While they search for the perfect purpose, others are generating abundance with much simpler but equally valid purposes. Jung identified another crucial element in this dynamic: systematic projection of the material shadow. Many intellectually superior people have unconsciously projected their economic shadow onto other social groups. They've decided without conscious analysis that money is intrinsically dirty, that successful entrepreneurs are necessarily superficial or evil, that true spirituality and material abundance are mutually exclusive. These unconscious projections create an energetic field of systematic rejection toward prosperity that functions like a repelling magnet for economic opportunities. Their unconscious automatically rejects any possibility of enrichment because it has catalogued it as non-spiritual or morally inferior. The apparently ordinary people who prosper, conversely, maintain a much simpler, more direct and healthy relationship with money. They perceive it as a completely neutral tool, neither intrinsically good nor intrinsically bad. This emotional neutrality allows them to flow toward abundance without the complex psychological blocks that systematically afflict more sophisticated minds. Their mental simplicity is their strength. Money is money, opportunity is opportunity, action is action. They don't complicate what is simple by nature, don't philosophize about what requires practical execution. But here we arrive at the most important turning point of this entire exploration, at the very heart of this apparently inexplicable mystery. Both Jung and Frankl intuited that there exists an individuation process, a path of personal evolution that eventually reconciles and transcends all apparent opposites. For brilliant minds who have gone through the experience of material limitation, this phase doesn't represent cosmic punishment, but meticulous and necessary preparation. It's as if the universe, in its infinite wisdom, were systematically preparing them to handle much greater, more responsible and powerful prosperity than they could ever have managed correctly without this prior character forging. Reflect on this possibility. What would happen if someone with an extraordinary mind, capable of influencing thousands or millions of people, received massive material abundance before having developed the necessary emotional wisdom, genuine humility, and spiritual responsibility to handle it correctly? Economic power without corresponding wisdom can be absolutely devastating, both for those who possess it and for all people under their influence. History is full of examples of geniuses who, having received power before being prepared for it, ended up destroying their own lives and causing massive damage to their environment. The material resistance that brilliant minds experience during their first decades of life is frequently a deliberate process of spiritual purification, a cosmic methodology to ensure that when they finally achieve the prosperity that corresponds to them, they'll do so from an authentic place of humility, clear purpose, and genuine service. It's as if they had to first demonstrate, to themselves and to the higher forces that govern human destiny, that they can be completely happy, useful, and fulfilled without material abundance before being entrusted with the sacred responsibility of handling truly significant resources. This preparation phase forces them to develop qualities that will be absolutely indispensable when handling abundance: patience, perseverance, compassion toward those who struggle economically, genuine humility, detachment from material results, and above all, crystal clarity about their true motivations and life purposes. Jung would speak of this process as a fundamental part of the path toward individuation, the journey towards psychic wholeness that represents the ultimate goal of human evolution. Brilliant minds must completely integrate their conscious light with their material shadow, learn to simultaneously embrace their superior intellectual capacity and their legitimate and sacred right to earthly prosperity. This integration process isn't quick or comfortable, but when successfully completed, it produces extraordinarily balanced, powerful individuals capable of generating massive positive transformations in the world. Frankl, from his unique existential perspective, would say these souls are being systematically prepared to find meaning not only in suffering and limitation, but also in abundance and prosperity. They're learning the most difficult lesson of all, that true spiritual wealth doesn't exclude material prosperity, but includes it, embraces it, and uses it as another tool in service of a transcendent purpose. And here lies the deepest and most liberating revelation of this entire exploration. The apparently ordinary people who enrich without apparent effort and the brilliant minds who struggle for years with economic limitation aren't in competition, don't represent cosmic injustice, but are at different stages of the same extraordinary evolutionary process. Some have come specifically to experience matter without deep questioning, to learn lessons that only carefree abundance can teach. Others have come to question deeply, to suffer consciously, to develop wisdom, to then experience matter from a place of absolutely superior understanding and responsibility. Both paths are sacred, both are necessary, both have their indispensable place in the grand tapestry of humanity's collective evolution. There are no victims or privileged ones. There are souls fulfilling different aspects of a higher plan that transcends our individual understanding. If you've made it this far in this deep exploration, it's because you're very probably one of those special minds in active integration process, someone learning to reconcile their spiritual depth with their sacred and undeniable right to material prosperity. And if so, let me transmit something that can change your life forever. Your moment of abundance isn't just coming, but is being meticulously prepared by forces operating beyond your conscious understanding. The universe hasn't endowed you with extraordinary intellectual capabilities for you to remain in perpetual limitation. It has given you time, experiences, tests, and challenges to develop exactly the wisdom, compassion, humility, and inner strength you'll require when abundance arrives. And it will arrive because it's part of your destiny, part of your mission, part of the higher plan your soul accepted before incarnating on this plane of existence. You're not a victim of inexplicable cosmic injustice. You're the protagonist of extraordinary divine preparation. Your current limitation is your forge, your future abundance is your destiny, and the wisdom you're developing in the process will be your greatest treasure. Jung and Frankl, each from their revolutionary perspective, reached the same fundamental conclusion that must become your new truth. We are infinitely more than our current circumstances suggest. Our real destiny completely transcends our apparent limitations, and today's obstacles are invariably tomorrow's triumph foundations. The key to your transformation lies in radically changing your relationship with material prosperity. Stop perceiving it as something foreign, incompatible, or inferior to your spiritual nature, and begin understanding it as a natural, inevitable, and sacred extension of your elevated purpose. Money in the hands of brilliant minds and hearts purified by experience doesn't represent spiritual corruption. It represents divine potentiation of the soul's mission. It's not a fall from grace, it's material elevation of human consciousness toward new possibilities of service and transformation. Your superior intellect isn't your enemy on the path to prosperity. It's your most powerful ally once you learn to apply it from clarity of purpose rather than from paralysis of infinite analysis. Your exceptional sensitivity isn't weakness. It's the antenna that will allow you to detect opportunities others don't even perceive. Your spiritual depth isn't an obstacle to abundance. It's the guarantee that when it arrives, you'll use it in ways that will positively transform not only your life, but the lives of everyone who comes into contact with you. The moment to completely integrate these truths has arrived. The moment to reclaim your divine right to material prosperity has arrived. The moment to embrace your complete destiny, without artificial divisions between the spiritual and material, has arrived. If this profound conversation has unlocked something fundamental within you, if you feel these revelations are activating memories of your true purpose, if you recognize your own path in these words, then the time has come to act on this new understanding. Don't forget to like this content so it can reach more souls who need to hear exactly this message at this moment in their lives. Subscribe to the channel because we'll continue exploring these fascinating mysteries of human existence that transform us from the inside out. And above all, share with me in the comments what your personal experience has been with this paradox between intellectual capacity and economic reality, because your story might be exactly the spark someone else needs to begin their own transformation toward the abundance they deserve and that the universe is preparing to deliver at the perfect moment.